Today, I'm very glad to invite the Associate Dean of Cleveland State University to talk about some educational topics related to business education here in the U.S. And I want to let her to share with you lots of very good insights about Chinese students, how they can apply for the U.S. schools, and what kind of preparation they can do before they applying for U.S. business schools. So let's begin.
Okay.
First of all, please introduce a little bit of yourself, maybe your background.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. First, I want to thank Michael for giving me this opportunity to be able to reach you. This is my 26 years at Cleveland State University. I started as an assistant professor, and over the years I moved up from assistant to associate to full professor, and then last 8 years I have been doing both academic work and also administrative work for the College of Business at Cleveland State University. I have organized many trips to China with my students. I love visiting China. I have seen the development and incredible growth in China. I did get a chance to meet with faculty there as well as businesses. So I'm very happy that I'm part of this discussion. I hope I'll be able to help answer some of your questions and ease some of the anxiety you might have, either you traveling abroad or thinking of sending your children to United States schools. So these are going to be my personal opinions, but since I'm in this for such a long period of time and coming from another country originally, so I know what must be going on in your head. So I'll be very happy to clarify any questions you might have, and I think Michael is going to bring these questions on behalf of you to me to answer.
Yeah, of course. So you have a very diverse and very senior experience, in the field of business education, and you have very good experience with, especially with Chinese students. That's very good news for our audience, because I think they are so curious about education here in the U.S. My first question is about, can you compare the difference between U.S. business education and the rest of the world? Sure. Is there any special points about U.S. business education?
Sure. So, and I have observed the education system in China as well as because as a Fulbright scholar, I visited different schools in Asia, in Turkey, in Indonesia. I visited school in Sweden, so I kind of know the differences because education systems align very well with the culture of that country, and I do have some familiarity with the way things go in China, and I hear from Chinese students in terms of these differences. I think one of the things I want to mention is that American schools are very engaged learning focused. So what that means is that we would like students to learn it by experiencing it, and that sticks to your brains much better than memorizing it. So the education system, even from the early stages, from kindergarten till high school, learning always takes place in an environment where the student practices it with the material, not abstract, but much more hands-on. So we carry that in our colleges and universities. Here, if you go to a typical business school, you're going to see not only the technology around the teacher to make sure that you learn in terms of videos and, webinars and, computer technology around you, but also the business professionals are in our classes all the time. I take my students to businesses to visit the businesses. What's going on in there? How does it look like if you ended up working in this company? What are their issues? We do a lot of practicums. What we mean by practicums is we get projects from businesses, and my students work on these projects as groups, and we present the results of what we work on to the business managers so that we hear their feedback. In real life, how would this work if we come up with this idea? And they would help us, with the presentations, with the way the critical thinking goes, with the realities of what happens at work. So that's the environment that the student is going to be. Group work is very big in United States schools in general, especially business schools. Probably, Michael, you relate to it in your classes. There's always group work. Yeah. So that kind of gets an opportunity for you to mingle with students from other cultures as well as students from United States, and that definitely improves students' communication skills.
Yeah, speaking of the practice you mentioned, and the very, I think, very great network here in the U.S., do you think, like, what kind of career opportunities you can provide for those international students, especially Chinese students here in the U.S.? I mean, especially in your business school. Yeah.
Yes. So I am directing the Student Engagement and Success Program here. So what I do every day is to reach out to companies to, create opportunities for my students to do one of, maybe I would say, 3 things. One is shadowing. What shadowing means is that maybe you spend a week or a day with the manager in an organization. Let's say this is an insurance company. So you kind of understand how does a day look like in an American business. For international students, that is a good option. It's just because of the fact that because of the visa problems, I wouldn't say visa problems, but because of the work permit problems, a lot of the American companies today are hesitant to hire students even for internship purposes. So I'm struggling with the companies' limited understanding of hiring international students as interns. International students are actually allowed to do internship here because their visa allows them to get what we call CPT or OPT, and they can actually legally work and earn money. But companies, because of all the government changes taking place recently, do not quite know how the paperwork goes, so they are hesitating to deal with it, and they rather not deal with it at all. I do provide education to business managers here to educate them about, I usually bring an immigration lawyer and invite business managers, and the immigration lawyer, brings it out all the, things that the students can do to educate them that this is not something that they should be worried about, and it, because our international students are very capable and very smart, so it can actually benefit their company. So we're working on it. I hope we are going to get there, but that's one of the challenges. I strongly recommend students to have one internship before they graduate. Some programs at CSU actually require internship as part of the program, so that encourages both the faculty and the student to look around to find something. And company connections is very critical. Students need to learn. What I do believe is that one of the issues with international students having difficulty finding a job is because they do not spend enough time observing the resources around them. So many times I see Chinese students studying very hard but nothing else. So our system is not designed that way. Our students have to go out and participate in events, network with everybody else, because most of the jobs are found by networking, not necessarily your GPA. So if you can get involved in student organizations, there are probably professional organizations in your major, like the CFA, financial, organization. We have institutes for supplier management. So there's so many of those in your local area that you have to just go, take the time, be brave, don't be shy. Go attend those, go with your instructors. We usually have faculty attending, and we encourage faculty to go together with the students. So the students shake hands, talk to the business managers in a much more, social setting. That's how you can find a job. That's how you can find the internships. That's very critical that I think international students need to develop further. I don't see that happening as much here.
Yeah, let me wrap up a little bit. Professor's idea from the school's perspective, they are trying very hard to help international students to broaden their network and to find a job here. But for the student side, they have to try their best to connect, to make connection with those network, with those business. So it's a two-side effort. So both of the sides should make efforts. So my next question, very interesting. I think it's a little bit more interesting than questions before. Lots of Chinese students care a lot about the ranking, about U.S. and U.S. business schools and U.S. programs. Do you have any insights you can provide about the ranking? How they get reference from those rankings?
Sure. So I think this is a big question for parents more than students. I think the students probably go to have different choices, but parents want what is the best for their kid, and it seems like the ranking becomes at the top of their list in terms of what is a good school to go to. Obviously, we have many good schools. If a school is not ranked, it really doesn't mean that it's not a good school. You have to find out what every school offers. We all specialize in different areas, and we all do a few things really well compared to other institutes. And it depends what the student wants to do moving forward, because if you're thinking of getting an education here and then going back to China, maybe the ranking is going to be very important for finding your first job. In United States, if you are thinking of staying here longer, finding opportunities here, then I would suggest you look at other things the school can offer. Some schools like Cleveland State, because we're more engaged learning focused, we probably will be more impactful to you finding something here. If we try hard enough, the students and us, for them to be able to do an internship can be leading into a position in a global company. So our resources are more allocated that way. Where the school is very, very important. A lot of the school in United States, and I think that's one mistake a lot of parents make, a lot of the schools are located in small towns. And for example, Case Western Reserve, Cleveland State University, they are located in downtown Cleveland.
Yeah.
So we benefit from Cleveland, what Cleveland offers considerably. So our students can attend so many events here. I'm not saying social events, I'm saying a lot of professional events by just walking to a building. We have recruitment happening all around the town all the time. And it's an older city, so we have very established institutes that can help students. So we immensely benefit from that you will not be able to find in small towns, although the school might be big. Because I did attend a school like that when I was here in Gainesville, Florida. That's where I was. The city was only the university and there was nothing else. So that limited me in terms of professional development. And I always, like the fact that I came over here and be able to live in a city. It's not as big of a city like the cities in China, but it is still significant size that offers many things. So look at that as a plus. If the school is close to a city or within the city, the price or the ranking itself should not be the only factor. One other problem that I see always happening is that some schools, are sometimes too big. They have a big international group, and I see all the Chinese students hanging out together. So they just never kind of like immerse into this culture or, become good friends with Americans, because there's so many Chinese friends from maybe the same town from China. So they live like, they live in United States, but they live like they are in China. So they eat Chinese food, they talk Chinese, and they go to a class where they can only see Americans and an American instructor. So it shouldn't be that much of money you will give to students to come over here. They really need to get an American experience.
Yeah.
So it starts with, for example, urban schools. If you're looking at urban schools like Cleveland State, we don't have a lot of international students coming here, but the international students who come here, they really have to mingle with American students, because it's 99% here is local American students going to college. So those Chinese students, I significantly see a difference in their language capabilities, writing skills. They adapt to here much better. They become much more, social, and they communicate more in the classes. I hear them more bringing their opinions, so it really changes them. And I suggest parents to really look at many of these things when they are choosing the school for their kids.
Yeah, I totally agree with Professor Tukel, because when you look at ranking, the methodologies are very crucial. So you have to figure out why they rank schools like that. If they rank school by academic results or by like the international level or anything, and not related to the career opportunities, that's not very good reference for applicants. So like some urban schools, they have more, sometimes they have more network, they have better network with downtown companies. So they can provide better chance compared with those larger schools who are located in rural area. So I totally agree. And speaking of that, could you please introduce a little bit Cleveland, the
Sure.
urban Cleveland, the industry here, the
Sure.
advantage here, and of course your school.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So as I mentioned, Cleveland is one of the older cities in United States. So pretty much, I'm talking about New York, Chicago, Cleveland, Detroit. These are where the first industrialization, especially the auto industry, steel production, oil processing started here in this region. So it has a rich history, not as rich as some of the, of course, Chinese, cities, but America is a relatively new country. So considering that it is a, historical city, I would say. So we have well-established legacy companies here. We work as my business school works with companies like Parker Hannifin. We have a long-term relationship with Parker Hannifin to a point where they are what I call investing in us by providing resources for our labs, for the business school engagement activities. They're providing financial support so that I can take my students to different places, do international trips. We do have more services today than ever before, so it changed. The manufacturing turned into more service focused, and Cleveland became more healthcare focused city right now. But when we say healthcare, we're not recruiting medical doctors, because hospitals are big organizations that require financial, accounting, finance, operations management. So they are hiring from business school, not only from Cleveland State, but other universities around Cleveland all the time, because they need all of those skills. We have, well-known insurance companies like Progressive. And we have, well-known sports in here that brings money to the city. We have, probably you're familiar with Cavaliers, our basketball team. We have a professional baseball, Indians baseball club. I send students to Indians baseball club regularly, 10, 15 students every year to work as interns there. We have professional football team. We have, hockey team. So all those are bringing opportunities for my students and also bringing money to the city. We have a lake that allows us to, use it as a resource for transportation. We have a port here. It's a small port, but the port does, container shipments. So it is a very reasonably priced city. So for families who might have, or if you're thinking of coming to US with a limited budget, I would definitely look at a city like Cleveland because of the living expenses are very reasonable. I know everybody likes California and New York, but I have to tell you, you just have, renting an apartment to food prices is significantly different than here. But I spent almost my 30 years in Cleveland, and I am happy that I have been here. It's just a nice place to raise a family. And we have great students here.
Yeah, so I also agree with you about that, because Cleveland is really a great place to live and to experience the real American way of life. Maybe in a city like New York, some people there are not from US. They speak like English is their second language. So here in Cleveland, you can experience the most authentic American life. I think it's the last question.
Sure.
It's about what kind of preparations you think Chinese students should prepare before they come in here, based on your experience with current and former Chinese students. Because I think some Chinese students, they're very good, they're very qualified, but sometimes they lack some kind of quality to find a job, for example, here. So what kind of opinion or recommendations you can provide for them?
So I think the most important thing is to do your homework before you decided to come, because it's an investment. It's a lot of money to be able to come here, even for a short study program. If you're coming for a master's degree for 2 years, it is 2 years of your investment in here. So you really have to do your homework, understanding where you are going and what the purpose is. And as I mentioned before, depending on your purpose, there is something for you here that you can choose. But it is something you have to give up to be able to do something else, right? When you have limited fundings, then you have to think about how much tuition I want to pay versus how much money I want to spend doing other things. I do recommend you don't come here only for the educational experience, because the way the education goes in other countries, like in China as well, it's very comparable. We're not saying or explaining anything any different than the faculty over there. It's just the style is a little different. As I mentioned, maybe it's more discussion oriented, it's more engaged learning oriented. But other than that, I think education is universal. We all learn the math the same way, but it's the other things, the other experiences in an academic environment in the United States that can absolutely benefit you. And I see that from my visits to other countries like Chinese universities. Maybe what is different is people and how they look at things and how they promote things. And how do you feel about that in a different culture? So that's a wonderful experience that will shape you, and you will go back having a different view about the world. That's definitely the case. I came to United States and my world opinion changed totally. When I was a student in United States. So that's a huge experience, and that's probably what companies want. It's a plus because most Chinese companies are very global these days. And also the opportunities that you can use here that are free of charge to you. There's so many things universities offer. But before you come here, do your homework. Just study. What I mean is that read as much as you can. Talk to people who have been already in US. Just get a feeling of which part of US. There's significant differences in United States, interestingly. Whether you're on the coastal side, it's much more liberal, to the central United States is much more conservative. So they have different opinions, they have a different lifestyle, they have different accents that, I had a difficulty, sometimes understanding when I came as a student. So you have to look at those as well. But just make the most out of it when you are here. It's just not only studying in the classroom.
Thank you, sure. Professor Tukel. So
Thank
I think
you.
Today Professor provided very, very good information about how to choose business school, U.S. business school, what difference between U.S. business school and Chinese business school, and how Chinese students should prepare before they come here to the U.S. Very useful. I hope that people can not only care a lot about the ranking and those top 20 schools, but also you can do your homework and check university like Cleveland State University and lots of other urban universities. Maybe you can find very good opportunities in those schools. And thank you again, Professor.
Thank you.
And I think today we'll finish today's interview. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.
Bye.